Welcome back to The Betrayed. I'm Gina Beck.
This is Drew Williams.
Thank you for listening, liking, commenting, and subscribing. We appreciate y'all.
Yeah, thank you guys so much. The engagement's just been amazing the last few weeks. I can't appreciate it more.
If you guys have a betrayal story you'd like to come on, or you'd just like to come on in general, message us on our Facebook, Instagram, or email us. All of that will be in the description below. Today we have a guest who is a fugitive recovery agent and a private investigator. He is also an author and a father. Ismail Soto. How are you?
Doing well. How are you guys?
Doing very well.
I'm good. So I am very ecstatic about how you reached out and wanted to talk to us and wanted to come on. And then I looked into some of what you've done and I watched your news story and everything. And I'm just very intrigued and have so many questions. So you want to explain what you do?
Yeah, so basically I am a private investigator in I'm in California, live in Southern California, and I work in the fugitive recovery industry. Actually got out of it a couple of years ago, last year actually, but what is happening is I'm being dragged back in because of my love for the hunting and the prosecution of pedophiles, child sex offenders, any type of sex crime I'm going after.
That's amazing. And we need that. We really need a lot of that.
Yeah, that's a lot of admiration for you that you actually do it and you're licensed to do it and do it properly.
No, I appreciate it. It is an extremely passionate, it's a passionate part of my life. What happened was 2011, my child was actually molested by a family member. You know, I have 5 kids and it was a little different. Like, are you going to go after this individual, put hands on him, kill him, whatever you're going to do that's going to put you in prison and take you away from your other 4 children? Or are you going to focus on doing it the correct way, kind of trying to make it my mission in life to cease and desist all this type of behavior? And that's what I've done.
Wow.
What are your opinions on the predator hunters and the teams and stuff like that you've come across?
I think these guys are highly underrated by law enforcement, to be honest with you. And you also have to see it from the law enforcement angle. When they're building a case, when they are investigating a crime, they have a certain protocol that they follow. And the way they go after people builds the case. So everything that they do is admissible in court. And unless you're a sworn officer or a private investigator, evidence is not going to be admissible in court unless it is videotaped. Well, these guys are videotaping it. The problem is you run into the little parameters of entrapment. You have to be careful. But I commend them for what they do. And I just wish they were able to work a little more closely with law enforcement. They should be in cahoots, and they are not. My hope is that, through Hunted and Confronted, facing some of the law enforcement in his area and a couple of the other guys I see online, that they will hook up with maybe a vice unit cop or maybe a sex crimes cop and put some of these people away instead of just, embarrassing them. I don't think that's going to stop the offenders from reoffending. They're still going to try.
Right, exactly. I feel the same way. And I also, from experience from working with certain police departments in certain areas, because we've traveled doing this, so we've gotten to meet a lot of people and a lot of different police officers with different opinions, and they're very different in different areas. Like when we called Oregon told us that they wouldn't come at all and help us or even take the evidence. But when we called Colorado or Idaho Police Department or in Iowa, they came right away. In the beginning, they would arrest on scene, and some areas would take our evidence and then arrest later. So we've gotten arrests, we've gotten some convictions, but it doesn't match up. How many we've gotten doesn't match up to how many arrests and convictions we get. And that's the issue that I'm facing. So I think that, reaching out to politicians, governors, and just trying to find that one person who cares like we do to help try to make a change as well, because we need more punishment for sexual predators. We need this to be more of a priority for sure.
Right. You guys.
How is it in California?
Well,
how is your law?
It's an extremely liberal state, and the punishments are not fitting the crimes as of now. The difference between what you guys do and what I do is I would be at a later date in the chronological order. the people that I'm chasing have already been arrested and released on bail, or sometimes they are a fresh arrest. They've never been arrested before. They've just been charged with the crime. That's when we're aiding law enforcement. But in California right now, I mean, the laws are so laxed, and there are so many people here, and the government is so liberal, it's not allowing for justice to be done, in my opinion. The bail industry is an industry that I worked very closely with for many years, and bail is being taken away in the state of California. And so what they're doing is they're coming up with an algorithm, and nobody really even knows, this is an assumption, but what we believe they're doing is coming up with an algorithm that will basically determine in a point system style whether or not a defendant will be released before a trial or he will be remanded. So it depends on your history and so on and so forth. So if you've got a first-time sex offender, there's nothing that says if he's never been caught before that he's going to be remanded. And that's the problem. Getting these guys off the street it's becoming a growing trend, and we don't have enough people to take them all off the street, and the laws seem to be working against law enforcement in a lot of ways. I work very closely with law enforcement in Riverside County, California, San Diego County, California, and it is the consensus from speaking to many, many officers I work hand in hand with that they're frustrated because they're taking even just a sex offender, but anybody off the street, and they're getting out in a week or 2 weeks, and they've committed a real crime. And then it boils back to there is no funding for any type of rehabilitative programs because they've given it all away in the welfare system. So it's almost like lock them up, let them out, and let's hope they don't do it again.
Right. Like we've got a man, Travis Joe Benson in Colorado. He got out and he was only out for a week after doing 8 years for failing to register as a sex offender and for offending. And he got out in a week and he started talking to the decoy very sexually, and he had a bunch of single moms with kids on his Facebook that he was trying to talk to many of them at a time and try to get with somebody who has kids. It was very disgusting, but it was crazy how he got out, was in a rehabilitation home where they keep them all together and try to teach you how to get back on your feet and stuff like that. And he's already offending, and then he goes right back in. And now he doesn't have a sentence and he's just sitting in there. He hasn't been sentenced yet, but it's just insane how like the mindset and stuff like that. But yet you can go shoplift. I don't condone it, but you go shoplift or deal with some weed or something and you're in trouble for way longer than a predator with probation. And that is just insane to me. Right. I think there needs to be more punishment. And I love what you're doing. And I love that you have so much support and backing and you're able to execute. It's amazing.
Yeah, it kind of fell into my lap. Another thing I wanted to bring up is the fact that some sex offenses, right, and people call everybody a chomo if they're charged with a sex offense. I know a kid who was 19, or he got charged at 19. Him and his girlfriend were dating through high school. She was 14, he was 16. They dated until he was 19. She was 17, and they broke up. And the parents, claimed statutory rape on him. That type of sex offense, I'm not okay with, right? Because you're branding somebody for life, and it's just not correct. They dated, but when you're talking about the sex offenses that we're chasing, it gets pretty hectic.
Yeah. Someone that I know personally was dating a girl, and they were both younger, and then he obviously was a few years older, just like what you just said, and he turned 18 before she did. Well, the parents were okay with it. The parents knew that they were together. They would hang out a lot, but then they got in an argument and broke up. So the mom and dad got angry over the argument that they had, and they took him to court, and then he had to register.
Right.
So stuff like that, yeah.
This is wrong. One of my best arrests was a pastor out of Northern California. His name's Fernando Maldonado, charged with 23 counts of rape of a child. And we actually pulled him from Mexico, where the amount of places we've gone is endless. Peru, Bolivia, Belize, Brazil, Mexico, currently working a case in Guatemala, Dubai, Cebu, the country of Cebu, which is in the Philippines. We've been all over.
Wow.
And this guy raped a girl 23 times. We brought him back. He ended up getting 37 years. Those are the types of arrests that, I'm focusing. Right now, my current case, a gentleman wanted out of Sacramento. He's in, I have one in Michoacan, Mexico, forced oral copulation and penetration with a foreign object. And he's he's on the run right now. We've got another one in Guatemala, wanted out of Maryland, and he raped his wife's 3-year-old daughter. They have 3 kids together. Excuse me, not 3, 13-year-old daughter. They have 3 kids together after the 13-year-old daughter. The wife left her daughter in Maryland, totally abandoned her at a group home, and took her 3 kids and the husband that just raped her oldest daughter, and she's on the run with him in Guatemala. We actually have pictures of him, and I'm waiting to get him extradited within the next week or so. So This is the type of scum we chase. And each one of these guys that you're dealing with, and that these other predator hunters that are out there, they're dealing with these people. It's just those people haven't been caught yet. So really what you guys are doing is almost preventative maintenance.
That leads into a question.
Yeah, you think so?
Do you think, with your experience and like what you've gone through, like being licensed and everything, do you think predator online hunting is something that could be like officialized, like through the state or federally or anything like that, or is it just too many like roadblocks from laws for anything to be like that?
Well, different agencies and different departments and organizations around the United States do this. There are sections of the FBI that are dedicated to solely predator hunting online. The difference is, like I said, it's a growing trend with technology evolving and modernizing. They don't have the manpower to do to handle every single child predator online. So I feel like more of these online predator tracking, there should be either a type of licensing to have them work congruently with law enforcement, or there should be some sort of organization set up where people would be able to register as a predator hunter, submit all their files, and then work closely with a DA's unit where maybe an investigator would clarify everything and then be sent over for prosecution and warrant pool. It shouldn't be any different. Almost like a vigilante type, almost like a bounty hunter. You know, you're basically digitally bounty hunting. The problem, as I said before, that you're going to run into, there are different parameters that most people don't know unless they have the training, pertaining to entrapment, that can actually give prosecutors a hard day in court trying to get that conviction. Make it easier for the defendant. If the lawyer knows what he's doing, he could get around that. So everything you do, my goal would be, or my advice would be, to document it perfectly, and writing and video are the ways to do this. You know, for instance, if somebody,
is very important.
I think the gotcha guy is on Plenty of Fish. I think that's what he's using, because he said that in one of the videos I saw last night. I commend the hell out of this guy. And he's using Plenty of Fish, which most likely says in its bylaws and contract, and when you sign up and you sign whatever contract they have you check the box on, clicking and agreeing to their terms and conditions, that you're over 18, right? So then if your so-called victim sets up an account, says she's 18, but she's really 15, but that's really you guys doing it behind it, you run into a legal battle there that might not be able to be overcome for conviction.
That's why I like to use anonymous apps, and I like to use apps where there's no age, it's all ages, and that way you're able to choose the age, or there's no age even shown at all. That way when someone messages you and they're like, how old are you, and you say, it's not what I like to call like the bait and switch, you know?
Right. I think the way for you guys to get the notoriety, the exposure, and link up with somebody who would make your actions more official and used in a court of law on a regular basis in California would be an assemblyman, because that's where the legislation is proposed at. It begins there. It goes to a senator. They usually link up with a senator, and then it comes across the governor's desk. But an assemblyman in a district where you guys are running into a lot of problems would be the way to go, in my opinion.
I'm going to write that down. And it's very dangerous too. And I was looking up some articles about the things that you do. And there's people that are getting dragged by cars or shot or hurt, and like anything can happen. So are you worried about stuff like that happening to you, or just it's not even on your mind?
No, it's happened. I've been shot twice, stabbed once, but it's few and far between. So out of 4,300 arrests, 4,300 and change, some arrests, I've had 3 issues. I will say that in my experience, sex offenders, especially repeat sex offenders, are not violent when approached by an adult or law enforcement. They're more of the sneaky style. I mean, it depends on the style you get. Do you get the guy that's really tech savvy? Do you get the guy who's just a Mexican immigrant who wants to, touch a little boy? It all depends. But they're usually docile, I can say, in a stereotypical manner. They're not as violent as, going after either a gang member or,
I've noticed that as well.
From what I understand, domestic violence arrests are the ones that are very violent and usually turn into a physical or violent altercation.
Mm-hmm.
So
Do you
usually,
think that
I know they're caught like deer in headlights when you guys catch them.
Yeah, especially with the phone. They're just like,
Yeah.
what are you doing?
Yeah.
Do you think that sexual predators can be rehabilitated?
No.
Yeah, I don't think
That's
so
all.
either.
That's my opinion too. I don't think there's anything to help them. I think it's a miswiring that can't be fixed.
You know, some of
Mm.
the California Department of Corrections and Rehabilitation, I don't know what they're doing now, but when you parole, right? When you parole from
Mhm.
state prison, and we used to have the contract, my company did, to monitor, track, and apprehend all level 3 sex offenders that were in violation of their release conditions. We had it for 2016 and 17. When you parole, if you don't have a family member or a safe haven or a support system, and there's no room at a halfway house, which a lot of them will not take sexual predators, there are predators being released from prison every day, right? And I thought this was kind of different. CDCR, which is California Department of Corrections and Rehabilitation, they used to release to certain areas that I think the government or the county, somebody had purchased them. For instance, there's a place in an area here called Romo Land. It's right up the street from Temecula where I live. And there's a trailer park there that is literally the whole population of sex offenders, right? Never
Wow.
seen anything like this. There's outside of Donovan State Prison, there are a few trailers in a little park where they put really high level sex offenders and they check on them every day and so on and so forth because they have nowhere to be released to, and they're too dangerous to release into the public.
So
So
they have a similar thing in Florida. It's like a little trailer park / little subdivision, and it's all sexual predators.
we have to think about it from the funding issue, which California being such a liberal state and then spending all the money on some of the dumbest crap I've ever seen in my life. But you have to think about it. These cops are overworked, underpaid, including corrections. There's only so much they can possibly do. They do their jobs, but
Yeah,
what are you supposed to do when there's no way to rehabilitate somebody?
right.
You know?
Yep, that's a dilemma.
Yeah. Well, I like to think that we should be copying other states, such as Texas, maybe
Exactly.
turning a little bit more conservative and getting more stringent on the time that they're in there. But
Right. Do you mostly get older or younger or equally both?
I'll say equal. I'll say about 50-50. The older ones are usually the repeats, obviously, but we see a lot of younger ones. I'll say 23 to about 38, and above that, you're usually about 45 to 60. Kind of.
My opinion on getting the younger ones is like they're our future. They're the ones that are about to go to college or in college, about to be our teachers, pediatricians, things like that. Jobs that surround themselves around children. So I think some people, I've read comments, "Hey, they're so young, you're ruining their life," so even in their early 20s, you're ruining their life. And it's like, no, they could ruin your kid's life by being your kid's teacher and being closer to your child and then grooming them into coming to their home or something like that. See it all the time. So
we've arrested a fair share of female sex offenders as well.
I was going to ask that. We've only came across a small handful of them online from what we do, but I was going to ask about you guys because we were looking at statistics the other night and it really surprised us about how many actually get caught. You don't really see that.
There are a lot. Not so much in California. You see, regionally, it was more. I remember we had a whole group of them in Michigan, a lot in the South.
Wow.
That's where we're seeing most of those.
Disgusting.
Yeah.
And you're an author, right?
I am. I wrote a book called Dirty Tricks to Find People, and it tells my story. I'm going to
leave that in the description below as well, if anybody wants to check out his book.
Sure. It tells my story. I was convicted of a crime in 2007 and went to prison for 5 years because I refused to inform on my brother who had gotten into some trouble. And they convicted me of perjury, and I went on the run, and I was adopted, so I used my originally given name to me, and they tried to charge me with identity theft. And long story short, I served 5 years in prison where I came up with this plan because while I was on the run as a fugitive, I realized that the bounty hunters and the fugitive recovery agents and the cops chasing me, I was a little bit quicker than them. So I said, while I'm in prison, let me come up with this plan. I wrote a business plan. I got out. I executed it, and they actually gave me a pardon in 2018. They fully pardoned me. The governor did.
That's awesome.
Wow, amazing.
So, and I
Good.
went on to take over the bail industry in California, and then it's so shady and such a crappy ordeal, and the people involved in bail bonds are just terrible people, almost all the way around, from my opinion. Maybe a handful are decent people, that I just walked away from the industry in 2018 and still operated as a private investigator.
I have a question for
How
you.
long have you been doing this?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Sorry.
Since September 2014.
All right.
Wow.
And then my question was, what is the most impactful thing you've learned from your experience doing this?
Keep hold of your children. If you look at the victims, that we were chasing the predators, but when we looked into the files, it really made me understand that spending quality time with your kids on a daily basis, talking to them, knowing what's going on in their life when they're 10, 9, 8, 7, 13, doesn't matter. Having a full-on conversation with your children once a day, whether it be a meal that everybody sits down to or whatever it may be, but being active in your kid's life will prevent things like this from happening if you have a good relationship with them. And I think that with the hustle bustle of life, which I feel it too. My wife's a full-time student and I work and I'm a full-time student. It's hard sometimes. And I think that when people get caught up in the hustle bustle, they don't realize that the kids are actually falling prey to the attention that's out there on the internet. So that was really my main thing. It just made me so much more intuitive as a father.
And that's really good. That's something that I say a lot, is communicating and talking to your children, especially about everything that I know now as being a decoy and seeing how these men talk to me and stuff like that. Trying to, because I don't know, I don't remember parents and stuff and being talked about like this stuff. I remember stranger danger, but that doesn't really apply now. So I recommend, if your son or daughter is growing up and starting to turn 18, that you tell them, now that you're 18, and if they're not dating anyone, obviously, go for 18 and older. You got to directly tell them, talk to them like they're adults, and just tell them that they need to avoid being around or being with children. And like, even some people, like, I've gotten an excuse, why would I check her ID? It's like, why wouldn't you check her ID? Do you want to go to prison? Do you want to be in trouble? Do you want the script flipped on you? Check her ID, or check his ID.
And then again,
but
you got to think about the people that are, there are girls out there with fake IDs that are going to clubs, getting in trouble after dating a guy or sleeping with a guy, and then they come home and the parents find out, and the guy goes to jail for a sex offense because he got lied to and the girl looks older. That's kind of wrong. What about you, Andrew? What is the most impactful thing you've encountered being in this industry?
Predators come in every shape and form, and the people that you least likely suspect are predators. Because we even busted an ICAC officer. He came in a government car to pick up a little boy, and it's you never know. It always shocks me. There are the people that look like a pedophile, but there's so many more that just you would walk by and never even guess until you read their chat logs or watched the video of the exposure. The chat logs are the most revealing to me, because people really show themselves.
There's a Riverside County sheriff they're still finding victims. He killed himself in 2009 or 2010. His name was Kevin Duffy. And they're still finding victims that are emerging and saying he touched him. And he was part of an advocacy group for inner city or at-risk youth, and was actually working as a cop, trying to assist the public, but assaulting children at the same time. When faced with the consequences and brought to trial, he ended up taking his own life. So yeah, you're definitely right. The predators come in every shape and size.
And just the way that they talk to you and groom you, their tactics and the things that they say, it's disgusting. But have you, so you mentioned how you've been through some dangerous situations. What's a betrayal story that you can share with us?
Betrayal is an everyday, all-day occurrence in the bail bond industry in California when you work in it. These people will sell their mother for a $5,000 bond because they think that puts $500 in their pocket. They would do anything for money. So betrayal stories specifically, I mean, I can give you one where anytime you take somebody's word for them and you say, listen, I'm going to go and catch this guy for you. We don't need a contract because I've known you for a few years. And I went and put the guy in jail. I went all the way to North Carolina, put him in jail. I was owed $32,000. And when I got back, I got nothing. And I got told right in my face, no, we're not going to pay you. He's already in jail. We think the cops got him, not you. Or I arrested an individual in Mexico and I was due to be paid $51,000. And to this day, I've never been paid by the insurance company that owes me the money, Lexington National Insurance, because they said, oh, you did something illegal by bounty hunting in Mexico, which I didn't bounty hunt in Mexico. I just coerced the individual to come back. So betrayal is an everyday occurrence in the bail bond industry in California.
Wow.
That's deep.
I mean, every day. These people, I can tell you there's more honor amongst thieves. I can tell you I would rather deal with people in prison. There's more respect in prison than there is in the bail bonds industry today. Guaranteed.
Wow.
Wow.
That's a big statement.
Yeah. And you can ask any other bounty hunter or any other, maybe not the bail bonds agents, any other bounty hunter in the state, and they will say the same thing. It's a very nasty, dirty, grimy industry. But it's wonderful because you can make great money and make a difference in the world.
Right.
So it's really tough. It's almost as if there's a checkbox on the application to become a bail bondsman. Are you a piece of crap? Yes? Okay, you can be a bail bondsman.
It says a lot
So,
about the industry.
Yeah, but saying that, what keeps you going? Is it the chase? Is it the things that you like, the end goal, the arrest? What keeps you going?
So now, when I left the industry about May 2018 of bail bonds, I tried really hard to stay out of it. I still operated as a private investigator. I work a lot for criminal defense attorneys. I work for civil attorneys, mostly attorneys that need any type of work. I'm also in the real estate development industry where I work as a risk manager. And I utilize my private investigative skills in different arenas and different genres of business. Every once in a while, and I still get the urge to go back and catch a bad guy and chase this guy, and I still do it. I help my friends that are in the industry still. And people from different insurance companies that I have a great relationship with will still call me and say, hey, we can't find this guy. We know you can find him. And I cannot not do it because it's a sex offense. They're aware I will only work a sex offense. So what keeps me going is staring at my daughter every day. You know, I watch my daughter get up and I'm like, well, if I don't go get this guy, it's the same thing as me letting the piece of shit that did this to her. It's the same as me saying, you know, the piece of work that molested you, hey, I'm going to let him go and not go after him. So that's kind of my catalyst, and it keeps me running every single day. I try to dedicate probably about 4 hours a day to fugitive hunting, and then the rest of the day is spent on other mundane private investigative tasks or cases.
That's amazing, and I really applaud the work that you're doing. It's hard, it's draining, it really messes with your mind sometimes, the stuff that I have seen and read, but I've gotten used to it. So imagining that you've done the amount that you've done, you probably just get used to it and everything becomes routine, right?
Yeah, and before you know it, I mean, how long have you guys been doing this exactly?
2 years I've been doing it.
Yeah, it's like a prison sentence. It's just going to fly by, and you're going to keep doing it, and you'll look up and you'll say, you know what? Darn, I really did all this. When I quit and I tallied everything, my wife took pictures of every arrest I ever took, and my wife pulled out a big Rubbermaid tote and said, here you go. I was packing up my office, and I said, wow, she stuck 4,400 or 4,300 pictures on the walls of the garage, right? In my third car garage, I built it out to an office. And wow. It was unreal. So that's before you know it, while you're working, it's like a restaurant rush. When you work in a restaurant and there's a rush, before you know it, it's over and you look back like, wow, it's crazy. So you'll get the same feeling.
I would have never have thought, I would have never thought that we would even have gotten 200 and over 200 in a year. And that was just like that many, like, you know, right. But the arrests and convictions don't add up to the amount that we have got. So that's right. The thing that I'm trying to work on is be able to be more of a voice and try to help make change rather than just going out there and, like you said, shoving the face in or the camera in their face. And it's kind of borderline harassment in a way when it comes to social media. And I'm not saying the people, I'm saying the platforms, like they feel like it's borderline harassment. And so, you know, I feel like I've been there, I've done that. I want to make more of a difference and more of a change. And going on to that, one of the last questions I have, what are some of the goals for change that you can think of and that you can think that we can work towards?
I think that posting their names is this, I don't know the legalities around this, and you'd have to speak to an attorney, but you know, when the police do a quality of life sweep and they arrest a bunch of Johns at a massage parlor sting, they put their names out there. And I think that that would almost, it won't stop the urges, but I think it would suppress them a little.
So that's actually what I did on the team is I put together like I guess you'd call them a collage of photos and like their license plate and things like that. And I actually had them on Instagram. I still have a group on Facebook that has complete chat logs. But Instagram did not like them. Like I had 2 accounts deleted.
Yeah, but what about this? What about, so a person such as myself, which anybody could probably pull some information like this off the internet, but what about informing their neighbors, putting a flyer about it at the local school, embarrassing them in any way you can? I always thought, like this gotcha guy that's near me, I wanted to help him in when he had the phone number that he was chatting with them on. As soon as he got their phone number, I could tell you what their name is, where they live, who their mom is, their wife, everything about them. And we show up at their door and say, hi, you know, let's ruin this. This is what's going to happen over and over and over. Sort of like Cheers.
Exactly. And before we meet up, like we do a background check, we find out all their social media, we do all of that research. And that way, when we confront them and they try to lie to us or try to say my mom passed away or something like that, like, no, we know everything about you. And like you said, posting their names, we've thought about that. That's why Drew started his groups, and he aired everything out on his groups, and we kept our Facebook and Instagram with light details because our pages would keep getting taken down. And we didn't know if it was because we were showing something certain in the video, saying something certain in the video, or how we titled things. So we would send people to the groups.
A kick-ass website and having links go from social media to the website, then it can't get pulled down. You can put whatever you want on there, and you guys can sell advertising for funding once you get enough clicks, likes, and so on and so forth.
There is a group that I really enjoy, Pop Squad. They have a website, and he's very professional on how he does things. He's very organized on his filing and everything. And they have a website that's something that I would have loved to have then and now. But it's something that we can still do. But someone that has done that is Pop Squad. If you want to check them out, or anybody listening wants to check him out, he's done over awesome 200 too. As well. They're very well put together.
I think you guys need to create a almost like an organization, like where everybody gets together. Every group is obviously in a different area, right? I don't know if there's multiple groups or there's friction between them. Like the gotcha guy seems to be down here. I know Hunted and Confronted seems to be in the Pacific Northwest. You know, almost
there's
like
tons.
There's tons of these people. But if there was a way to organize them, it would be more effective to approach the police in different regions if they were part of, like, say, a national coalition of predator hunters or something of this nature, where everybody can come, register, post their almost like your own Facebook, predator Facebook. You know, if you were to mimic that style, you know, the powers that be from each predator group and hunting group get together. They all meet in one city and sit down and put it together and become organized as a group.
I love that you say that, because when I first started this and as I was doing it the first couple months, that's something that I strived for, was all of us to work together, because we can make so much more of an impact if we did. And not even just working together, just not even being like friends if we don't want to, but just treat it as a business and just like, hey, we all do the same thing. Let's be organized and let's execute a plan. But you said it yourself. There's friction between teams. There's things that people don't like about it. They've brought it to be personal on a level. Some have, not all. I can't speak for all of them, but some have brought it to a personal level, and that has hindered a lot of us progressing into making this bigger and more, and making this more more of a change for everybody. So something that we have to work on, something that people have to communicate and be able to come together and do, which if you're listening, it would be amazing if everybody just came together and did the things that we're talking about and be able to execute a bigger difference.
Right. Maybe it's got to start with law enforcement. So I would
for sure.
reach out state by state, but I commend you guys for what you're doing. Everybody out there, all the predator hunters, you have no idea how helpful it is. And I think they should try to team up with their local bounty hunting or bail bondsmen in certain states. Some states don't have it, but and work together with them as well, because they get sex offenders all day long, and some people have problems trying to find them. And you guys are natural investigators. That's why you're doing this.
Exactly. Thank you for coming on. I appreciate it. If there's anything else that Drew you want to ask, go ahead and ask.
No, the questions I had, he answered them before I even got a chance to say them. I'm just so happy you came on. If you ever want to come back on, man, I would love to hear more stories from you. I really appreciate what you do.
I appreciate you guys having me.
Yeah, I'm very thankful because I've gotten to talk to a cop before, but never an investigator or someone that is in the same realm of what we do, but on a professional level. So it's amazing.
Don't discount yourself. You guys are still professional, right? You just haven't been recognized yet. And the only reason that I say I'm professional or licensed is because somebody came along and said there needs to be a license. Keep that in mind. Same thing should happen with you guys as it comes to fruition.
I really appreciate that, man.
So you guys go check out his book. He's made a book. I'm gonna go check it. I'm gonna get it. Go check out. We'll leave his social media if he wants his social media in the description below. We appreciate y'all. We love y'all. Thank you for listening, liking, commenting, and subscribing. We'll see you next time. Banana Cats.
Banana Cats. Much love.